The month of May has been busy for scientists here in India, with the discovery of 2 new species of diatoms and 3 new species of snakes. Let's talk about what this has to tell us about all the unexplored regions of India. And then we'll discuss the tiny fig wasp and look at how extremely important it is to the giant fig tree. I'm Annie, and this is Research Bytes, your dose of science news. What do you get when a trip to Sikkim doesn't follow your plans? It's frustration for many, but a eureka moment for some. This is exactly what happened when Dr. Balasubramanian Karthik and his team of researchers went to Sikkim last year. A trip to meet up with some fellow scientists ended in the discovery of 2 new species of diatoms. On their way home, they noticed a massive rock covered with moss, and out of curiosity, they scrubbed some of it and took it back to their lab. When they observed their samples under a microscope, they found 2 new species of diatoms, Stauroneis sikkimensis and Stauroneis lepche. They are the first 2 diatom species to be ever reported from Sikkim. You must be wondering what diatoms are. I hadn't the foggiest idea either. They're microscopic algae that are made up of a single cell. They live in houses made of glass. They're the only organisms on the planet with cell walls that are made from transparent opaline silica. These cell walls are decorated with intricate and striking patterns. They grow in moist areas and are commonly found in rivers, wetlands, oceans, and the soil. These diatoms feed the oceans, lakes, and rivers because they're a source of food for many organisms in the food web. And they're a good way to tell whether our water bodies are clean or not. They also remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere through a process called carbon fixation. This CO2 is then converted into sugar and oxygen is then released. So the oxygen in every 4th breath that we take in comes from diatoms. But yet, we haven't explored the rich biodiversity of these diatoms. We know about only 20 to 30,000 species of diatoms, but it's been estimated that over 1 million species might exist. The 2 new species belong to a genus of diatoms called Stauroneis. They are found in semi-aquatic habitats and areas covered with moss or on tree barks. Out of the 1,200 plus species of diatoms that belong to this genus, about 120 are found in the Indian subcontinent. Stauroneis sikkimensis is named after the state of Sikkim, where it was discovered. The other species, Stauroneis lepche, takes its name from the Lepcha, the earliest ethnic group in Sikkim. The cell of this diatom is like a soap box. It has a larger upper lid-like valve and a smaller lower valve that forms the base. Diatoms in this genus have a unique structure called a stauros in the center of their valves. It is marked by a thickening of silica and it kind of looks like a cross. Stauros in Greek means upright stake. In Stauroneis sikkimensis, the stauros looks like the letter H, while in Stauroneis lepche, it resembles a bow tie. The valves of both these species are quite elongated, wider in the middle and tapering at both ends. This discovery is not the first for the Northeast. Last year, the same group of researchers discovered 3 new diatom species in Arunachal Pradesh. Conservation and documentation efforts are concentrated to protected areas and certain large mammals or orchids. The humble diatom has been forgotten, even before it's being found. There's this burning need to explore the diversity of otherwise neglected organisms and microbes because so many of them might have industrial applications that could benefit our society too. Have you heard the word on the vine? A new species of vine snake was recently discovered in India. Ahechula londankia is an arboreal, chestnut-brown snake with black speckles. It looks like the dried stem of a bottle gourd plant, and this is where it gets its name. Laudankia can be split into two parts. Lau means bottle gourd and danka means dry stem in the Odia language. This snake is a subtle white under its head and has a bright orange or brick red belly with whitish lines running down the length of its abdomen. While its keyhole-shaped iris is black in color, the outer sclera is usually bicolored and matches the colors of the snake's head. The discovery of this snake comes after a gap of 113 years since Annandale described the variable colored vine snake in 1906. These snakes are masters of camouflage and blend into their surroundings, waiting for an unsuspecting lizard, frog or bird. Typically, vine snakes are either green or grayish-brown in color. The green ones usually inhabit rainforests, while the brown ones live in the savannas or dry forests. Ahetula londankia is widely distributed across the eastern Ghats and central India, extending up until the eastern reaches of Rajasthan. This species has been eluding researchers for almost a decade, with only 3 specimens having been acquired in the past 9 years. In comparison to the other vine snake species like the variable colored vine snake and the green vine snake, this species might just be naturally rare. The new species of vine snake is endemic to India and lives in the hilly forests and plains at an altitude of 80 to 400 meters. The 3 species that the researchers collected in Odisha were from fringe forests near woodlands, full of deciduous trees. And since the different species of vine snakes look very similar, it's quite possible that Laundankia may have been misidentified in the past. For instance, it could have been mistaken for the variable colored vine snake, which comes in a plethora of patterns. Recently, there have been a ton of new species discoveries in the world of amphibians and reptiles across India. So what does this tell us? These frequent discoveries of higher vertebrates, like reptiles, amphibians, indicates that our knowledge about the actual diversity of these vertebrates is still inadequate in poorly studied regions of the Indian peninsula. If you were to play a game of hide and seek with the recently discovered pit viper Trimeresurus arunachalensis, there's no question who would win. Its russet tone matched the forest floor so well that you could walk past it again and again and again and be none the wiser. It's no surprise then that researchers have described this elusive yet memorable species from a single known specimen, making it the rarest pit viper in the world, for now at least. This new species was discovered during a survey in the remote montane forests of West Karmeng, Arunachal Pradesh. This snake looks very different from the other brown pit vipers that are found in this region, like say the mountain pit viper or the brown spotted pit viper. Vipers are venomous snakes with long hinged fangs that can penetrate deep into hapless prey and deliver a lethal dose of venom. Pit vipers, a subspecies of the viper, have heat-sensing pits on either sides of their head, between the eye and the nostrils. These loreal pits act as a sixth sense, allowing the snake to find and even judge the size of small warm-blooded prey. These organs may even give them an edge at night, helping them avoid predators. Trimeresurus is the most diverse genus of pit vipers. There are about 50 known species distributed across the south and southeastern parts of Asia. The addition of Trimeresurus arunachalensis brings the number of pit vipers in India up to 24. This reddish-brown pit viper has a slender body and a broad neck. Its snout appears to be round when you look at it from above, but projects sharply above the lower jaw when it's viewed from the side. The head is a uniform shade of brown that matches the brown color of its body. The body, on the other hand, is a tapestry of brown blotches with irregular dark margins that zigzag down its length. A broken white strip runs along the sides of its belly scales. The researchers compared this scalation with other pit vipers. They then sequenced the snake's DNA and looked at its phylogeny. That's the evolution and diversification of this species over time. They used this to identify the snake as a new species. But the snake's natural history is largely a mystery. Its blotchy brown color pattern and ability to merge with the forest floor suggests that it might be terrestrial. But since the species was described from just a single specimen, almost nothing is known about its range. There's this need for a lot more research. While this snake is the first new species of pit viper to have been discovered in India after a gap of 70 years, the northeastern reaches of India have unearthed several discoveries over the last 2 decades, one of which was a species of non-venomous keelback snake from Arunachal Pradesh. Plus, Arunachal Pradesh was where that team of researchers identified those 3 new species of diatom last year. The snake's common name is to be the Arunachal pit viper, after the state that it was discovered in. This makes Arunachal the only Indian state to have a pit viper named after it. Biodiversity surveys in the Northeast, like the one that helped discover the Arunachal pit viper, are key in discovering the mysteries that this area holds. They also help raise awareness about the ecological wealth of a place and its potential for ecotourism. But tourism is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it could lead to animal abuse and sensationalization. But when done right, ecotourism in Arunachal Pradesh, which is directed towards exotic and often threatened natural environments, with the intent of supporting conservation efforts, has helped to boost the economy of the indigenous tribes of this area, especially the Bugun community. Plus, it's also helped fund future research. Rua Lomrul, as the locals call it, is a rain-loving snake that's found in the capital of Mizoram. The locals have known about this snake for many years and have often seen it during the monsoons or near streams close to human settlements. But it is a new discovery to science and has been christened Smithopus atemporalis. This snake has been given a new genus as well. It belongs to the Colubridae family, the largest snake family with more than 500 genera and approximately 1,700 species. That's about 2/3 of the world's snakes. Smithopus atemporalis falls under a subfamily of colubrid snakes called the Natricinae. These snakes are often found in or near water and are characterized by their round bodies and triangular heads. Smithopus atemporalis is commonly called the Mizo rain snake, and it's on average about 2.5 feet long, lays eggs, and is currently believed to be non-venomous. Its diet is made up of lizards and frogs. It lacks temporal scales. These are large scales on the side of the snake's head near its eye. This characteristic is extremely rare in snakes of this family. Hence its name, Smithopus atemporalis. The Mizo rain snake has a snout that slowly tapers to a smooth curve at the mouth. It is bicolored with a darker black-grey above and whitish below. The sides of the snake's body, where the black and white meet, traces a zigzag pattern down the length of the snake. And the scales of the snake are smooth and iridescent. The new genus Smithopus was named after Malcolm A. Smith, a British herpetologist who made huge contributions to herpetology in India. He published a series, Fauna of British India, on the taxonomy of reptiles from the Indian subcontinent way back in 1943. And this trilogy is still a primary resource for anyone who wishes to study Indian reptiles. The genus Smithopus was once considered to be part of the genus Rhabdops, which was represented by only 2 species of snake that were separated from each other by a huge geographical distance. The first snake is the olive forest snake that calls the Western Ghats its home, while the other, The bicolored forest snake can be found only in northeast India. The researchers looked at the DNA and the morphology to establish that these two species were not closely related. The population from northeast India forms a distinct lineage that is completely different from the one residing in the Western Ghats. Plus, what was once considered to be a single species from the northeast has turned out to be two distinct species instead. One is the bicolored forest snake and the other is the Mizo rain snake. Since the snake from the Western Ghats was described earlier than the ones from northeast India, it remained in the genus Rhabdops. And the other two northeastern species have been put in a new genus, Smithopus. As of now, the Mizo rain snake has only been found in different localities in Mizoram, but it may have a wider distribution. So these are the new species that were discovered this May, and this unprecedented shower of new species shows us that there is this need for research in these less explored habitats, especially northeast India. With the fast pace that India is urbanizing and developing, these natural habitats are getting encroached on, and we might just lose a new species before even discovering it. Why should we care about this? Well, in the grand scheme of things, every species is linked in an ecosystem. So the extinction of a linchpin species could cause the destruction of the whole natural habitat. Let's talk about the relationship between a fig tree and a fig wasp. It's a match made in heaven. Fig wasps are tiny, the size of a comma, and they make their homes in the secret gardens that are the figs on a fig tree. The female fig wasp lays its egg in the fig flower and helps disperse the plant's pollen. In return, the fruit gives shelter and food to the larvae that hatch out of these eggs. But not all wasps are found in every fig tree. Every one of the 800 or more fig species in the world has a unique set of fig wasps species that make a fig wasp community. They depend on their fig trees to survive. So, how does the distribution of fig trees in a region correspond to the wasp communities present there? But first we need to understand a little bit more about the fig. A fig is not just a fruit. Inside the fig, there are the flowers as well, and this is called a synconia. Fig trees are of two types. There are monoecious figs, whose synconia has both the seeds and the pollen, and dioecious figs. They have separate synconia with seeds and pollen growing on different individual trees. The hairy fig, Kada ati in Kannada, is monoecious and has 4 species of wasp associated with it. The cluster fig, or just ati in Kannada, is dioecious, and there are 7 wasp species linked to it. The wasps either enter the synconia directly or use a long needle-like ovipositor to lay their eggs inside the fig. The synconia comes in different shapes and sizes to control which species of wasp can enter them. It secretes compounds to attract or repel the wasps, and the fig wall acts as a barrier to restrict wasps from laying eggs inside the fig. Fig trees bear fruits all year long, and this allows the fig wasp to continue its life cycle. Over many years, evolution has taken its course to influence the structure and the behavior of the wasps as they adapt to their host figs. It turns out that the cluster fig has a wider range than the male and female plants of the hairy fig. And so the wasp communities that live in the cluster fig can fly longer distances than those that live in the hairy fig. This shows us that there's a connection between the distribution of fig trees and the dispersal rates of the fig wasps. Over evolutionary time, that thousands and thousands of years, the wasp communities that are closely related to them had to tune their dispersal to match the dispersal of their host trees. This sheds some light on the role of evolution. As more fig trees were distributed farther apart, they selected and harbored wasps that could fly longer distances. And on the flip side, Those fig tree species that grew close to each other did not favor the selection of wasps with the traits that allowed them to fly long distances. And this phenomenon is probably applicable to many insects, like crop pests that move from one plant to another. I think it's fascinating that a single tree species is the world to a community of wasps. It's said that the sixth extinction is currently underway, and insects are the most threatened. So what if the wasps were to go extinct? What would happen to the fig trees then? And fig trees are considered to be cornerstone species to forests. So the loss of a fig tree could have this butterfly effect on the other flora and fauna that depend on them. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. All my references are in the description below. And if you'd like more research-based stories, podcasts, or news, log on to our website www.researchmatters.in.